We live in the era of modern reboots. Not to rehash a seemingly endless point in today's film industry, but we are in a wasteland of originality when it comes to what studios are willing to invest big dollars in. Most of the films that break any ground are low-budget indie sleeper hits or something produced by a very large company like A24. The horror genre is going through the same reboot-itis with horror legacy sequels and reboots all over the place. Pretty much every classic horror film has had remakes, and of course this isn't new. Many of these franchises are on their third reboot already. It's insane how much the pace has sped up towards the late 2010s. Some of these films reinvent the original concept for a modern audience and have love for the original source material, like the Evil Dead 2013 remake, which is an amazing film just on its own and is completely fucking terrifying. Others, like the 2015 Poltergeist remake, which I completely forgot was even a thing, are cheap cash grabs by a studio to make a little bit of extra nostalgia dollars. And there has been a huge comeback in recent years with directors like Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, and Ty West, who quickly became Hollywood big-time directors after making one low-budget project. I mean, except for Jordan Peele, who has been a comedic genius for years and already had a foot in the industry and was killing it as a writer and director. He just made the switch into horror film from TV comedy and nailed the landing, becoming my favorite horror director, and I think most people's in the modern era. To get back to the point, these directors impressed the world with original concepts and beautiful cinematography, which shot them into trilogies and other films and other million-dollar contracts. A similar thing happened to director John Carpenter when his low-budget, expertly crafted film Halloween hit the scene. A film that sparked copycats and worldwide phenomenon, creating what we know as the teen slasher film and wowing audiences with its beautiful cinematography and creativity. Filmed in only 20 days over a 4-week period in May of 1978, and with a very small budget of $325,000, which adjusted to today's inflation roughly equals around $1 million, like $1.5 million. The budget was so low that costuming was done by the actors bringing in their own clothing. But somehow, through numerous production issues and a one-shot take that almost cost the whole film, John Carpenter managed to deliver my favorite horror movie of all time. A timeless classic that is like a warm blanket to me. I just love this movie so much. So, of course, in a world of terrible reboots, I was terrified when I learned that Halloween would be getting a modern reboot. Halloween over the years has been absolutely dragged through the mud, with countless terrible sequels and reboots. I was delighted to hear that this one would basically retcon all the events of all the previous sequels, and even the sequel that retconned all the previous sequels. And once pictures from set started floating around, I started to feel a bit better about this reboot. It looked like it was trying to capture the warm 1970s horror magic of the original. Once I saw the trailers and how great the cinematography was, and the fact that it was portraying Laurie as badass, who was kind of waiting for the opportunity to put Michael in his final resting place, kinda sold me. Then the movie came out and managed to blow my expectations out of the water. I'm not even kidding when I say this is one of the best horror remakes since Evil Dead. The film's plot might be kinda similar to the original, but it does spins on the original that kinda make it interesting. I don't really want to be a movie plot summary YouTube channel, so I will just go through the basics. So, the night that the 1978 babysitter murders happened, Michael was promptly arrested and sent to a high-security asylum. The film opens on him being harassed by some podcasters who managed to get a hold of his mask, and he looks like he's itching to start killing again. Laurie basically goes into hiding waiting for Michael to return, traumatized by her night with him. Canonically, they don't explain how this works in the movie, but she hooks up with a guy at a bar. This was actually confirmed by the director, and has a kid. Flash forward to the present day, Laurie is living like an InfoWars fan, still training for a fight that hasn't come in almost 40 years. Her daughter now has a daughter of her own, and the family kinda shuns her. This relationship between Laurie and her family is actually one of the strongest aspects of the story and really hits on emotional levels sometimes. There's a lot of resentment towards Laurie for being an absent mother and never living her life due to the trauma of the past. It affects her relationships with everyone and ultimately isolates her from the most of the town of Haddonfield. Michael might not have killed Laurie, but he definitely won. All of Laurie's worries are confirmed when Michael is being transferred by bus and manages to crash the bus and break free. A scene that plays so much homage to the original film and reinvents it with new levels of horror. This film keeps that classic look of Halloween alive with its cinematography and amazing direction from director David Gordon Green. Someone who really did his research and shows his love for the original in every shot of the film. But back to the story. After smashing some skulls of those true crime podcasters and getting his mask back, like he did that one night in 1978, Michael goes back to carefully picking off the residents of Haddonfield one by one. The town quickly descends into madness with the cops trying to handle the Michael problem more quietly. Laurie, of course, is on the hunt and discovering that her granddaughter is in the middle of basically the same night she was, teams up with the local sheriff to try to stop Michael. Through some other bloody shenanigans, we learn that Michael's new doctor, who is definitely not the amazingly talented Donald Pleasance, was intent on bringing Laurie and Michael back together. Luckily, Michael head stomps this guy like Mario. Let's go! And continues after Allison, Laurie's granddaughter. She makes it to Laurie's house and we see that the cops outside have been killed. They get discovered by Ray, who is very quickly turned into a jack-o'-lantern by Michael. Very, very cool kill. Allison is reunited with Laurie and her mom Karen hide in a panic room she built for this very moment. Laurie is ready for her rematch one-on-one with Evil finally after 40 years. We get an awesome scene where Laurie manages to kick Michael's ass pretty good and uses some of his own moves against him. The balcony disappearing Uno reverse move that Laurie does is probably one of my favorite moments in the film. With the help of her daughter Karen, who swoops in to help with a quick rifle shot to Michael, stunning him, allowing Laurie to throw him down the stairs. All seems over, but Michael grabs Karen's leg in a last-minute attempt to get one more kill. He then is stabbed by Allison, causing him to fall back down the stairs. Laurie springs a trap, closing off the exit. It was her plan all along. She fills the room with gas, and Laurie lights a flare, setting the whole house ablaze. They escape and hitch a ride from a trucker and embrace each other for the first time as a family. This film kicks ass. It's the best Halloween sequel probably ever made, and I'm an avid defender of Halloween 2. The simple rehash of the plot was actually well executed and very well deviates enough from the original to really set this film on its own. It's awesome, and the fact that they got John Carpenter to write the music for it is just the cherry on top for me. And especially the revamped classic pumpkin intro was just so good, it gives me chills just thinking about it. Of course, it has its faults, but overall, I found this to be really enjoyable compared to all the legacy horror sequels. So after 2018, they quickly shot the next Halloween film, Halloween Kills, in September of 2019. But due to the wild and wacky COVID-19 pandemic, it of course went through the similar release hell that most films did at the time. But after waiting way too long, it finally came out in the fall of 2021, and critically it did horribly, but it did amazing in the box office. I, for one, really like a lot of parts of Halloween Kills. The movie picks up right when the last movie did, which is really cool, and not to mention the kills in the film are basically some of the best in the franchise. Plot-wise, there really isn't much. It's basically Halloween 2 all over again with more death, which basically I guess that's kind of what Halloween 2 was to the original Halloween. This one, of course, has the infamous line, "Evil dies tonight," with a shoehorn side plot about mob mentality. Honestly, this film has a lot of issues with some bad writing and story structure. It's basically a Michael Myers slaughter-thon, and you just get to sit back and watch him pick people off one by one. Which, if you watch this movie for that, I think it does its job, and it's really entertaining. If you wanted to see any other development with Laurie or any of the other characters, it's just not happening. One of the other cooler parts of the film is a flashback to the night in 1978, and it is done really well. They did some editing trickery for Loomis, but otherwise it looks straight out of the original. The public's consensus has been pretty mixed on this one. Some people hate it, some people love it. I'm kind of in the middle. I was like, I kind of like the Michael Myers wins and is unstoppable, Empire Strikes Back kind of thing. And for a trilogy, I think it would be great if this was like a losing, they don't win, Michael is just ripping through Haddonfield, and then it leads to a very satisfying conclusion and Halloween Ends. But of course, I don't think we got that. So we move on to the last movie, Halloween Ends. A movie that feels like when you realize you really don't like the people you've been hanging out with. Devoid of any originality and probably shitting on any momentum that came in the films before it. All this movie had to do was deliver a satisfying conclusion to the series that gives us one last cat and mouse game that ends in Michael being put down for good. They tried to completely switch directions of the franchise in the last movie of a trilogy. Spoilers, heavy spoilers for Halloween Ends. I'm not going to go into all of why this movie is a spit in the face to the fans of the franchise, but I'll try to go into my bigger points. Reason number 1. Most important aspect of why this movie is garbage is that it barely features Michael at all. Most of the runtime of this film is dedicated to a love story between Laurie's granddaughter Allison, now orphaned by Michael, and a new character we get introduced named Corey. I actually kind of liked Corey at the beginning of this film, and we genuinely saw him as an interesting character who had a lot of emotional and deep trauma. That quickly gets thrown out the window when Corey, while dating Allison, basically becomes Michael Myers after getting molested by him in a sewer. I kid you not, Michael gives him the evil by touching him, and you get a flashback montage of the past movies. Absolutely terrible move. What could have been a fun, rootable hero gets turned into a mustache-twirling villain very quick. Laurie in this film is of course acted very well by Jamie Lee Curtis and is honestly one of the best parts of the film. She gets a lot of screen time, but overall her character is watered down to a caricature of what she once was. It was really sweet getting to see Laurie live her best life, but ultimately the dull as fuck romance, which by the way makes Allison's character seem like a complete idiot who starts drama with Laurie because she's dating a serial killer. After all these trauma these characters have gone through, this movie is very quick to switch around the narrative. This all ends with Corey basically bringing Michael out of a sewer to kill Laurie because he's jealous that Laurie won't let him date Allison. So we get our final climactic fight scene, and it is maybe one of the most pathetic fight scenes I've ever seen, and it makes like killing Michael seem pretty easy. I think anyone can do it. The movie ends with them throwing him slow motion style into a meat grinder after they paraded his corpse around the town. And of course there's another montage of past Halloween nostalgia to kind of make you care, but of course it ultimately falls flat. This trilogy ultimately died with this film, which is really disappointing. I feel like it could have been a perfect conclusion to the story. We could have been done with Halloween. I really hope that we don't get any more Halloween sequels in the future. Halloween Ends was maybe one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen, in a long time. It kind of felt like watching Rise of Skywalker again. I really hope at this point they just really stop. I think the guy, big boy Michael Myers, has been running the horror genre for 45 years, and I don't know, I didn't hate these movies, I don't know, they kind of have a bad taste in my mouth now. I think if I ever rewatch any of them, I'll probably rewatch 2018, because honestly that movie's great, but other than that, I'm probably gonna stick to the classics, Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Season of the Witch just for funsies here and there. But hope you guys liked this video. Tell me guys below what you guys thought about the new Halloween Reboot Trilogy. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'm kind of in the middle. Let me know what you guys think. Also, happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you're having a great time. Stay safe, and I will catch you guys next week. Bye-bye.